I just want to thank everybody in this room for the courage, and I want to thank President Trump for his words, and I promise you, justice will be served.
And that was acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche last night, promising President Trump and the nation that the shooter at the White House Correspondents Dinner will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Joining me now is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here this morning. Give us your reaction.
Good to be with you. Well, first of all, the good news is that everyone's safe, and well, the Secret Service agent looks like he's going to recover, and everyone else was safe. I think that's the most important thing. But I was struck by a couple things. One, the poise and the composure of our commander-in-chief, our president. I don't think that should be lost on anyone. How he handled this situation and the two previous ones is something very few human beings you would see handle it the way he did. I mean, just true. I mean, under pressure, the way he handles it. Not to mention what President Trump has had to deal with for the last 10 years on all the attacks by the left and the weaponization of government. Very few human beings could go through all that, persevere through all that, and handle things the way he has. So I think that was front and center. And then Todd Blanche was just speaking there. I don't think this should be lost on anyone either. The fact that we have a third assassination attempt on President Trump, in that same week, we learn that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been paying and generating hate, the very hate they're supposed to be fighting, and they've been charged by the Justice Department. I don't think that's an accident that we learn about those two things this same week. This stuff has got to stop. But this left pushing the language and promoting the hate that we now learn that was going on with the Southern Poverty Law Center, so much so that they've been indicted. I don't think that's lost on anyone either this week. Yeah, and you've been investigating the Southern Poverty Law Center. You've also been investigating Act Blue. What can you tell us about those investigations? What are you doing about it? Well, I think it's important to remember with the Southern Poverty Law Center, remember, they put themselves out there as the standard. They were the ones who were going to say if you were a hate group, you were an extremist group. Moms for Liberty was extremist. The Family Research Council was some kind of hate group. I mean, they were supposedly the standard, and now we find out they were actually paying people to promote the hate that they were supposed to be fighting, for goodness sake, to the tune of $3 million, according to the indictment that Attorney General Blanche talked about. So this is serious. And I also, the Southern Poverty Law Center was the source cited in the now famous Catholic memo from the Ray FBI, where the Richmond field office had that memorandum where they said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. And, of course, who do they cite in that memorandum? They cite the Southern Poverty Law Center. So this is the stuff that's got to stop. And we're working on investigating these guys and making sure it does stop. I mean, you know, also has to stop this idea that it's on both sides of the aisle. I mean, you were there at the baseball game when your colleague Steve Scalise was shot. I mean, the list is long. Charlie Kirk was murdered, of people wanting to take down Republicans and this president. In fact, the shooter, we understand, had a goal of taking down the president or one of his peoples, quote unquote. Yeah, robust debate is what we need to be focused on. You know, we have this amazing thing, the First Amendment, and we want real and robust debate happening. But there's some of this language is just ridiculous that we see particularly from the left. And then when you couple it, and I keep coming back to this because I just was so outraged by this fact, but when you come back to the fact that the Southern Poverty Law Center, viewed as the standard, cited by so many in the media as the standard on evaluating what groups are extremists, what are not, what groups aren't, and they're actually paying these informants to go inside these hate groups and foment more of it. That is just evil. That is just wrong. And again, I think the irony is, of course, we learn about that. They're indicted the very week that we have this third attack on President Trump. What is your assessment of the security? People are scratching their heads this morning wondering how is it possible that this guy was able to get as close as he did, even though I know he didn't breach the actual room where the president was, but he was carrying a shotgun, a handgun, all of those knives. When I spoke with the president this morning, he was very gracious. He said Secret Service and the Capitol Police did a great job
He complimented them, as he is, very gracious always. He also told me, look, you're dealing with geniuses in some ways. Have you ever seen the IQs of some of these people who are assassins, he said to me. But he said, look, it's very hard to secure a room like that where you've got 1,000 people sitting on top of one another, and that is why we need the ballroom. Because he's being, fought about. They're fighting him just for this ballroom, which is something that clearly you would expect the commander-in-chief to need, at a minimum, to host our overseas allies.
Yeah, the left took him to court over it. No, I agree with the president 100%. I think the ballroom makes total sense. That facility there, of course, again, this is where President Reagan was shot. This is the First Lady's luncheon was just there a couple days ago.
Right.
And it was a packed ballroom there. I mean, you had hundreds of congressional spouses and others there at that event. And I know my wife was there, and she said the room was packed. The same kind of environment they had last night. So the president is right about this, having the ballroom on the White House grounds, which obviously would be much safer location for these type of events, these type of occasions. So I agree with the president. I think, again, it's just common sense, for goodness sake. But the left, as the president says so often, it's common sense versus crazy. The left takes the crazy position and even took the president to court, for goodness sake. Thank goodness the appellate judge has said, no, the president can proceed and he can continue to build this facility there on the White House grounds. Are
you expecting your colleagues in the Republican Party to agree to just fund whatever's left of DHS and get this done? You heard Senator Ron Johnson with me earlier. Yeah. Does last night's incident make that much more of an urgent matter this upcoming week?
Yeah, I think it does. I think both Senator Johnson and Jason said prior that they think that'll move that direction. I do too. I think we can get this all done. I mean, the idea that we had a 42-day shutdown in the fall, and now we've had a 60-some day shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security and ICE and Customs and Border Patrol just makes no sense. Back to my point, crazy versus common sense. We're the party of common sense. They're the party that takes these crazy positions. So, yeah, I do think we can get that both of those things done here in this coming week or coming weeks. But, yeah, it needs to happen as soon as possible.
And you mentioned Southern Poverty Law Center has been indicted by a federal grand jury. What happens next with that? Charges include wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering conspiracy, Congressman.
Yeah, again, as I said, this was the group that put themselves out there as the end-all, be-all on evaluating what was a hate group, what wasn't. And it turns out they were actually funding hate groups that they were supposed to be pushing against and fighting against, and it was a scam. They were raising money from this thing, and they were spending a lot of money. So, yeah, we're going to continue our investigation. We're going to bring in people to testify because we think it's important that the country know exactly what was going on. And I can't stress this enough. They were the source for so much of this stuff that came from the left, and they were the source on that memorandum that said if you were a pro-life Catholic, the FBI labeled you an extremist, and the footnotes in there were about the Southern Poverty Law Center saying this. So this is how dangerous this group was. And as I said now a couple times, the fact that we learn about them and what they were doing the very week someone tries to, for the third time, take the life of the President of the United States. Again, I don't think that's lost on anyone.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Chairman Jim Jordan. We've got more breaking news coverage on the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in just a moment on Sunday Morning Future. Stay with us.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.